What is going on, everybody? Chase Norton here. I figured if this works, I should record it because I've been working on it all day and I think it's kind of cool. So I'm just very off the cuff calling this SDKify. Essentially using AI to build SDKs from large documentation. In this case, I used to work at PayPal, so pulled off PayPal's documentation. And let's grab that real quick. Cool. So here is their documentation on their developer portal. And so one of the things I first tried was they have a Postman collection. And so I thought, how cool would it be to get their JSON from their Postman collection and parse that, iterate over that, and build and pass that to AI and then build an SDK from that. It turns out there's a lot of not dirty data, but unnecessary data. And the payload was very large. And also the Postman collection isn't complete. And so kind of went back to the drawing board after trying that and not really getting great results. And so I said, okay, what if we were able to scrape all of this data? Because this looks pretty complete. It has a lot of error handling and error messages and success and examples and all that, right? And so I was like, okay, what if we do that? So we built a scraper, and here is the scraper here using Playwright, and just basically goes to this. First, we built a scraper that scrapes the URLs, built up an array of URLs, and then scraped all of the data, and you can see all that data right over here. So open up this. Yeah. So just built up an array of objects that have various properties that, I don't know, I just kind of made up operation name, details, and yada, yada, yada. So this represents their online docs. I think we're going to start seeing companies design their documentation more for a format that can be fed into various large language models instead of what is nice for the eyes here, or maybe probably both. But in the end, what I want to do is I want to be able to just ask a large language model the question, not parse through here. And that's pretty much my discovery with everything is with all documentation is I just rather go to these models and ask it a question and it showed me an example than me having to read through a doc, find an example, but it's not exactly what I want and all that. So we're going to start seeing a shift in how we structure our data for our documentation, but that's pure speculation. Cool. So we grabbed all of the data here, and then we had to build up. So I already have a backend set up that is able to talk to OpenAI and all that stuff. And so then it's about really taking this, reading in the JSON, and firing it off to my backend and letting my backend kind of do its work. I also built an app that's called App Maker. And here, if we say generate app, and then app idea is to-do list, to-do, app idea is to-do list. That's the whole idea, sure. The front end is going to be JavaScript. Framework, let's use Next.js. Let's give it a backend, sure, of Node and Express, and we'll have an ORM of Prisma. Love Prisma if you haven't actually gotten to use it. It's especially if you come from the front end world, it's just a pleasure. Use it enough, and some people say you'll never learn SQL with it, but use it enough and yeah, you construct your mental models for it. So this is going to go out. I'll probably pause because it takes about 15 to 30 seconds to build the app. Awesome. Okay, so that completed, and we can see here it's not beautiful. It's not the best, but it's kind of a proof of concept of can we have AI scaffold out an entire application, not just, and you can see it made a package JSON, right? It gave me a README. Awesome. Here's the Prisma. Here's the the schema, all this, right? Okay, so this was just to show like I built an app, a plugin for VS Code that allows you to create applications. And so I was like, okay, what if we can take this a little bit further and use this ability to kind of create files, parse files, and create folder structures and blah, 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 and be able to create large, useful like SDKs, something that anyone who's joined a large company that's been around for a while, you wish this exists or, whatnot. And so I think we're going to start to see the ease at which we can make these. Always got to be a little careful, but yeah. All right, so we have all of our data. That's great. There was a good bit of like building. Anyway, I'm too long on this. All right, so the reason I'm recording is if this works, I'd like to have it recorded because it costs, I don't know, like $10 every time I run this because of how much data there is. And so you don't get to fail a lot. Of course, I've like reduced it to like when I'm debugging it only like, 30 cents or something. But like running the full thing, it's going to cost me a lot. So a lot. But, you do it freaking 10 times, $100 just to try something out. So, all right. Let's try, right? So let's go to the extractor. So what I've done is in this manifest that I built up, you can see this is the original. We just have the first one here. So this is just to reduce cost. And even inside of this, I've even removed all but one. Mm-hmm. All right. So what we should see over here is the folders being built based on their resource name. And we should see the files for the actual test or the actual SDK. SDK will have tests built in with it along with being type safe. So it's going to be using TypeScript. Ready, set, here we go. All right, since it's just one, it should be fairly quick. Okay, so I logged the wrong thing here, but that's fine. But the important part is, let's look at our types. Oh, look at that. Let's format that a little bit better. And then let's look at, okay, all right. There's a couple things that I made it do where the errors for each of these resources is like massive. And so I didn't want to keep sending the errors over in the payload because it gets more expensive. So I was like, just assume that we have the errors and then I'll just create that object myself. And that's like a one-time thing. Also, we get tests. So tests are also built in and that's great. And so we see this here. Might have to be a little, like playing with it. All right. So this shows us it works for one. Let's go spend $10 and see if it works for the whole SDK. I do have kind of like a beginner that I was working on. This is not manual, but not using this new style. But this kind of gives like the structure. I needed to know like what am I trying to do? What is the shell that I'm creating? All that kind of stuff. And so the idea is that we will basically copy and paste over what is provided via our Scrappy SDK builder, SDKFI. And then we'll just bring it over here and then we'll test it out and release it. Hopefully like one day to build a massive SDK. Type safe with test. Go ahead and is there anything else I want to check? No, that's fine. That works. All right. I mean, it's proof of concept, but here we go. All right. check back, and I mean, I don't think I need to like prove that this is happening, but it is 1:40 Hawaii Standard Time. So I'll let you know when this is done. Pretty cool. SDK builder. I will say this is taking almost 20 minutes. I'm glad I'm doing it locally. I would definitely get a timeout at this point. But also I'm like fascinated to see what's going to happen because it's a lot of files. It's a lot of money. All right. We'll see. Fingers crossed. All right. Still cruising. We're now 22 minutes into this. Okay, we are 26 minutes in. It's funny. I built a like AI test tool that builds tests for you. And seeing the use cases that people have for building tests, man, like we are changing. Our industry is changing so quickly that like finally tests are being written automatically for us that have like basically 100% coverage. It's, I think the biggest thing for me is like mocks being made like effortlessly, automatically. I don't know why, but mocks were always something that I did not like writing. And so just seeing it mock it out, and I'm just like, yes. 30 minutes later, we got folders. All right, let's see. Can I switch where my face is? No. All right, whatever. All right, let's go into the auth. Okay. Am I recording? Let's go into the test. Yes! Let's go into the types. Oh! Look at that! Look at that! God, it feels good when it actually does something. Okay, next step. Is all this just complete bullshit and nothing ever actually works? We're gonna have to, let's play this into our kind of our shell. I wonder how much that cost. Look at that. And look, the response statuses are different because it's based on the different APIs. Oh, that's we're gonna have to build up the errors objects. Yeah, that. But the nice thing is that I can feed this in from like, if you look at like payouts, right? These are all the same for like, these are different operations, right? But this is under one resource, which is payouts, and the errors are the same for the entire resource. And so really it's just taking this, sending it over to OpenAI and saying like, build me a errors object. And then I'll just drop that in. Okay. I'm going to keep recording because if this actually can be dropped in and at least in the next hour, get a full functioning SDK, I wonder which ones failed. Then like, it's going to be cool. So stick with me.